These are some of the most common mistakes husbands unknowingly make that feel loving to them, but feel dismissive and like rejection to their wife. You're listening to the Be Better podcast. I'm Harrison Hall, and after being a reactive, nice guy who almost destroyed his marriage, I now lead myself and my marriage from a place of deep fulfillment and connection. I help successful men to do the same. Now, these are some of the most common mistakes that so many men are making in their marriage, not through malintentions, not through malicious or like negative intent, but simply from a lack of not knowing. Right? Especially if you are, like I was, a chronic nice guy who thinks that the best way to keep other people happy, keep your wife happy, create a happy marriage is to put her first at the expense of everything else, to allow her to decide, to make all these decisions. And so one of the most confusing things, at least for me when I was in that space, was I didn't know what the fuck I was doing wrong. I was like, is this, and you start to question yourself, right? You're like, well, I don't understand. Like I'm not a bad person. I'm not doing anything intentionally wrong. I'm not rude. I'm not aggressive. Like I provide, I show up as best as I can. What what gives? And there's an element of, frustration and confusion. And, I get, there's not many things that I will say, thank God for social media for, but at least now in the age of social media and everything online, we have access to other perspectives. And we'll take that as one of the few golden nuggets of social media and the internet. But we have access to other perspectives, like other people getting to share their stories, their lessons. Hell, that's how you found me. And getting to learn, oh, that's what's going on here. That's why I'm getting the result that I'm getting. That's why I feel this way, why my marriage is this way. And then we can go and change that. Because otherwise, you kind of get to a point of, well, is this it? Like, it's not bad. We're not screaming at each other every single morning. No one's cheating. We're not, having massive blow ups. So is this it? And there's like an element of maybe disappointment in that when you think like, oh, this is the life that I've signed up for. This is the marriage. Is this what marriage is? Right? You date for a few years, you propose, you get a house, you get married, you go through your honeymoon period, you have some kids, you raise the kids go off, and then like that's it. But now we get all the exposure to say like this is what it could be. This is what marriage could be. This is what your life could be. The man that you could be, and not trying to sell you on a false dream. But if you're not happy with the way that your life is at the moment, that you have the power to change it. Like you don't have to settle for, well, it's not bad, therefore it's good enough. It's like, no, man, if you want more, fucking go for more. Like I'll never forget the client that I had. Oh, must have been maybe 6 years ago ish, and this was when I was working for someone else before it was, what I coach today. Back then, it was mostly nervous system and physique kind of coaching, and this guy said, he just got a divorce with his wife, also the mother of their kid, who were 15 and 17. No, sorry, no. They were 17 and 19 at the time. And he was like totally fine. I was like, oh, like, you okay? Like, how's that going? And he's like, yeah, totally fine, man. He's like, it wasn't messy, completely amicable. We both agreed, like, it's not bad. We're not fighting. We're not like, we don't hate each other. It's not bad, but it's not great. And I only get one life, so I want things in my life that are fucking great. So that's the type of relationship we both want to pursue. And, unfortunate that it's not together since we have kids together and whatnot, but we both agreed that we want more for love. And so we're going to go out and search for that through no ill feelings toward each other. And I just remember thinking, fucking respect, man. Like, absolute respect. First of all, to be able to, I'd like, I back then I wasn't in the ins and outs of people's relationships. So I don't know if they had the type of relationship beforehand where they could broach that up, or one of them, kind of said that and the other maybe agreed, or what the intricacies of it were. But like, imagine having a relationship where you could bring that to someone, your partner, and actually navigate that together, and it come to the hard decision that, oh shit, maybe we should be looking for someone else. And they were, you know, late 40s, I think, from memory. Like, that's massive. And it's also really inspiring. Because I don't know about you, but before my wife, like when I was just dating, it always felt like I needed a reason to break up with someone, right? Like, if nobody cheated, if there wasn't some glaringly obvious thing, then it was it felt weird to end it. You're like, I feel like I need a reason. And looking back, that's such a nice guy trait to, well, I need justification for this. I need a reason or an excuse instead of, oh, this doesn't align with me anymore. Like, things change. Now, I'm not saying go and set a new standard and then go and break up your wife because it's not fucking amazing. But my intention for sharing this is that you then have a new standard for yourself in how you live life, from the pretense of, it's not as good as it could be. Sorry, it's not as good as I want it to be, and it's my life, so I'm going to go and change it. I'm going to go and work on myself in the way that I show up to be the man that can create a better marriage. I'm going to do what I need to do in order to show up as a better husband, sorry, better father, to be able to make more money in my business. To do that, if there's something in my life I don't like, I am going to go and actively do something about it to raise that standard. But going back to some of the most common mistakes that men make, first one is trying to fix her problems. Like, I briefly touched on this in a previous episode, and it seems confusing to a lot of guys. Like, she brought to me a problem, I gave her a solution. What's the big fucking deal? This is where understanding feminine needs actually makes such a difference. Like, when you understand another human being's needs, what they need from you in that moment, you're able to give it to them. Instead of, like, my selfish need in this moment is to solve your problem because I feel uncomfortable with you having a problem and me not being able to solve it. I feel uncomfortable with you having this emotion, this stress, this anxiety, this whatever. So I want to solve it to make it go away, not giving that person the power for them to figure out what they need to do with it. I think this is so powerful because if we just get rid of the masculine feminine piece for a second, because I know that seems kind of aloof to a lot of people, but if we just remove that, look at your kids, right? I love bringing this back to our kids because it makes it so much easier to conceptualize, and it makes us better parents too. Like, when we look at our kids, say they bring us a problem, do we always give them a solution? Well, I sure as shit don't, because I don't want my two kids in it coming up, I don't want them to not be able to think for themselves. I want them to be able to, but first of all, figure out what they actually need from me in them bringing this to me. Like, hey, dad, I've got this problem. I'm like, cool, man. Do you need to talk about it? Are you just feeling that and you just need to share it right now? Like, are you looking for my insight? Tell me what's going on in you. What are you thinking? What are you feeling right now? And then we can brainstorm that. We can work through that together. My goal in that, even if he is like, oh, I want your insight. I want you to help me find a solution. Even if that is the case, what he's bringing it to me, I'm not just going to give him the solution. This is why it's basically coaching, parenting and coaching are very similar. Like, I need to help him come to his own solution. I need him to get to the solution that is his idea and his creation. And if it's that far off the truth or off reality, okay, maybe I'll, you know, fence him in a little bit to bring him back, get him some other ideas or other ways of thinking about it. But otherwise, I want him to get his own solution. And so my role as a sounding board is to then just reflect back. Have you looked at it this way? What about this? What about that? And then he gets to think for himself, work it through it himself, and then not to the point of, okay, he never needs me and he becomes solely independent, because I don't think forcing our kids to be independent is ideal long term, because I think that's why this individualism that society has created. So many people struggle to ask for help. So many people think they need to do it all alone, not just men. And so many people are isolated in their own shit because they don't know how to help. They don't know how to be vulnerable. They don't know how to share and then create safe space for themselves or anyone around them. So it creates so many other fucking issues. So it's also like, cool, can you think of this and be able to figure it out yourself? But also know when you can lean on other people too. And one of the greatest sayings a mentor has gifted me, especially in the coaching space, is if it comes from your mouth, it's horseshit. If it comes from their mouth, it's gospel. So as long as it comes from, in this case, my client or my child or my wife, if it comes from the person who needs the solution, if it comes from their mouth, it's their idea, it carries a hell of a lot more weight than me just saying, here, man, go do this. Right? Like there is a time and a place for that. With some of my high level guys, they pay for speed. Yes, I coach them on getting there, but we're not going to fuck around in the weeds, right? That's part of that process. But as much as possible, I like to help people get to their own solution because then it carries a hell of a lot more weight of them executing and following through on that idea. And it also gives them the ownership of the outcome, of the decision, of everything in that space. But now bringing it back to our partner, because part of a woman's problem solving is often just, I just want to talk about it. I don't need to do anything about it. I just need to talk about it. If we jump into solutions, it's like when someone gives you unsolicited advice. And especially as a parent, you get more unsolicited advice than ever before. And it's not always welcome. You know, you get that feeling when you're like, oh, I didn't want this guy's opinion on this. I was just sharing this thing that happened and now it's turned into a lecture. And will this guy shut the fuck up? I think we've all had those moments. And even though well intended, that's what she's kind of feeling. And so eventually she's like, "Oh, don't bother. Returns into something. I don't need that from him." And she just withdraws. So stop trying to fix her problems prematurely. Go back and listen to the last episode if you want to go like slightly deeper into that. And I've got a framework and everything in there for you. The second piece is uh, coming back to feeling like if I let her decide, if she gets to have her way, she will be happy, right? Because who wouldn't be happy if they got their way all the time and they got to decide everything? So saying things like, whatever you want, up to you, I don't mind, is it, you might think it's easy going. You might think like, oh, I'm just going with the flow, I'm low maintenance. And I used to think that too. I truly believe that.
Just quickly, mate, if you feel stuck in your marriage, if your marriage is not in the state that you want it to be, and you recognize that you need to change first, but you don't know where to start, I've created something for you. It's called the Husband Performance Score. 12 questions, it'll take you 3 to 4 minutes, and it'll show you exactly how you're showing up and contributing to the state of the marriage, exactly what you need to change and do about it in the form of a personalized profile and roadmap to get you from where you are closer to the man and the marriage that you want to have. The link is in the show notes, the Husband Performance Score. Now back to the episode.
But it's it's actually very isolating and it's very fucking annoying. I now look back at myself when, in those spaces saying like, whatever you want, I don't mind, up to you, I'm easy, things like that. And I almost want to go back and throat punch myself because it's so ineffective at a purely communication level, right? Forget romance and being married and stuff like that, but just two humans communicating. If one person says, whatever you want, I don't mind, like has no say at all after they've been asked for their opinion, it's very fucking annoying. 'Cause imagine if you ask someone, I, we had, they weren't godparents, but they were basically our second parents, right? Whenever it was school holidays, mum and dad used to send us up to the Gold Coast to stay with our family friends, and they didn't have kids of their own. They would just spoil us, right? They would buy me a PlayStation game. The wife would take my sister out to get her nails done. They take us to the uh, theme parks and all that stuff. It was great fun. And they used to mock us, or mostly me, of how often I would say, I don't know. What do you want for dinner? I don't know. What do you want to do today? I don't know. And it was just this running thing of like, I would say, I don't know to everything. Couldn't make a decision. Couldn't decide. Couldn't state what I wanted. Not even a need, simply just what I wanted. And it's very ineffective and unhelpful, especially when you genuinely want to know what someone thinks. Yes. No. Do you like this? Do you not like this? Like, I'm not taking offense to this. I genuinely want to know what, how you feel about this, what you want to do, what you like, what you don't like. And so it's not actually being in service by relinquishing that decision making and saying whatever you want. And she doesn't experience this as flexibility, as um, oh, I forgot the word I'm looking for. Um, Generosity, as leadership. Sorry, it's definitely leadership, but she feels it as absence, and she doesn't feel like you're easy to be with. And she actually feels exhausted because she can't lean on you to make a decision and to do it, to take the reins on anything, and to look after anything, to get anything sorted. Because anytime there's a decision, it'll come back to her. So eventually she learns, like, fuck, just cut the middleman out. Like, what's the point in me asking you to do something or asking for something if it's only going to come back to me to decide anyway? I may as well do it myself. And as innocent as those kind of statements might sound, especially at this level, that's dangerous territory to then put your wife into a position where she starts to feel that it's easier for her to do it on her own. That it's easier for her to figure it out on her own. For her it to if it's easier for her if you're just not involved. That's I don't know how that sits with you, but that doesn't sit too well with me. I even had one of my clients who I think I've mentioned it before, and before we started working together, his wife would s- got to this point because she would say, "Well, I'm not going to bring anything to you because every time I do, my one problem turns into two. I've got the first problem, and then I've got your reaction to that problem. You got defensive, you took it personally, you got offended, you put it back on me. I've now got two things to deal with." And then so she started to then just withdraw. One of my so and no, I won't give details as this is, but another person I know of was is in a situation where she feels that she would get more of a break. She would be better off raising their kids and just in herself if her and her partner split. Because she gets so little of a break now. She has to do everything all on her own already for herself, for their son, and everything involved in that. And if they broke up and there was split custody, she would actually get more of a life back. She would actually feel less stressed. She would actually have to like be able to look after herself more and be better off if they were divorced. Now that's a pretty fucked up situation to be in, where you're actually thinking those thoughts enough to then say that to someone else of like, I would actually be better off. I would feel more peace. I would actually get a break and be happier with my life if we had split custody over our son and we were divorced. Like, wow, that's heavy. So, gentlemen, make a fucking decision. I promise you, she's not going to get upset if you get it wrong. Like, yeah, if you go gamble the house, that's probably not a great thing to do. But little decisions. What are we going to do this weekend? What are we going to have for dinner? Like, instead of asking, what do you think? What do you want? Cool, I've made this decision. How's that feel? Feels good. Amazing. I don't know if I like that. Cool. How about this one? That starts to build trust. That starts to build confidence. Trust starts to build respect, and that safety back in there. And it takes loads off her plate. Even little things like if you got kids that go to daycare, they're in school. Hey, babe, I've organized shopping for the week. Kids are going to have this for lunches. We're going to have this for dinners, and everything's sorted. Here's the shopping list. I just need you to go and do it. Or if you use click and collect, then cool. It's in the app. It's ordered. This is when we need to pick it up. So done. I got the cat food and the dog food. I got this. I got that. I got the thing you like. There's these treats in there, so you can have your snacks and whatever else. Da, 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 sorted. I know that seems so simple, but trust me, that will go so much fucking further than you think it will. Because it shows your forethought. It shows you know what needs to be done. It shows you taking some of the decisions that might seem like meaningless decisions, but you stack them over the days, the weeks, the months of you making none of them and her making all of them. And that's why she's fucking exhausted. And then on top of that, there's the like any other decisions of like bonus decisions of date nights, of connection with you or intimacy or things like that. Holidays, luxury things, and it's no wonder people are so fucking burnt out just from decision fatigue. It's like, man, I don't fucking care anymore. I just don't want to think. And being real, that's why so many people end up doom scrolling at the end of the day because they're just so tapped out. They just don't want to have to put in effort. Like, oh, the thought of having to like think of conversation and just use my brain any longer sounds like hard work, doesn't sound like fun. No thanks, fuck that. And so just mindlessly scroll. I don't have to think, and then it's bedtime, we go to bed and we repeat. Not a great existence or use of time or connection, if you ask me. All right, so the next one is providing without being present. I was massively guilty of this one, and I've shared my story plenty of times. I was trying to grow two businesses at once. I was working face to face in the gym, putting all my energy and effort into making money, in being the provider, but I was not present. I was not here in the mornings. I was a zombie at night. So even when I was physically here, I wasn't emotionally present. I wasn't mentally present, and so many guys still run that play for years even, thinking that, if you work late, if you pay all the bills, and then just, "This is what I do for the family. I make the sacrifices for the family so we can have the house, the holidays, the food on the table, all these nice things." And yes, that's all admirable, but don't mistake that for your presence. Don't think that that is more valuable than your presence. Because I can just about guarantee she would trade half of that shit for you to actually be there with them. Not just physically, like fucking be there, man. Like to be there when they are playing on the floor or in the backyard, for you to be engaged, for you to look like you want to be there, for you to have the energy and the spark in your eyes that you're actually enjoying being with your own family. Like you get to provide a presence that they can't get from mum. You get to provide a presence to your wife that hopefully she doesn't get from anybody else. That's the one thing, no matter how much money, no matter how much you quote unquote provide, it won't make up for it. So look at what you're not providing. Yeah, you're providing some cash and some assets. What are you not providing? Masculine presence, some leadership, some connection, a healthy role model. And you might say, oh, well, I'm disciplined. I do this. Amazing, man. How do you regulate your emotions? How do you show up for your kids? What are you demonstrating to them? Because you're also demonstrating that money is worth more than your family. You're demonstrating that your worth is tied to how much money you make. You're demonstrating that your worth is determined by everybody else except you. And you're only lovable when you provide for your family, when you make that money, when you have that level of success. So you're also teaching your kids that they aren't good enough as they are. They're only good enough for what they provide. And so it's up to you if you want to pass that burden onto them or not. And so that presence is what creates the connection. And now I'm not saying you should need just take a shitty 9 to 5, quit your job, just be a stay-home dad and do all that. Find a way to do both, man. Like to start off with, even if you change none of your work hours, figure out how you can make more quality time with the time that you do have. Okay, so you've only got an hour each night. with your family, with the kids, and then maybe an extra, hour, 45 minutes with your wife. What would you need to do to make that high quality time? How would you need to show up? And that might mean that you're tired. Ooh, welcome to the fucking club. Might mean that you've had a stressful day, that you've had all this stuff going on. Again, welcome to fucking life, man. Now you can be the guy that uses every other excuse of I had a stressful day. You don't know what kind of decisions I'm carrying. Sure, dude. Or you can be the guy that, despite all that, does a quick reset in his car before he walks in the door, reminds himself what his values are, what his intentions are, who he says he's doing this all for, and then decides to show up for them. Because I can guarantee you, even on the mornings that you don't want to, you still manage to find a way to show up the way that your clients need you to, the way that your business partners and everybody else that's counting on you financially and in business need you to. You still find a way to show up for them, but you can't do it for your wife and kids. Yeah, this is me projecting my values onto onto you. So if you genuinely don't hold your family and your like that life in higher regard to business and money and things like that, then by all means ignore what I just said. Don't let anybody else tell you what you should or should not do. But know your values and know the trade-offs that you make, because then it becomes knowingly and not unknowingly. And then you can do something about it if you realize that things are out of balance. And that's a massive one. That, to be honest, that probably deserves a full episode, but that's not for right now. The next piece is going quiet to avoid conflict. Tension rises. There's a disagreement. There's a misunderstanding. There's tension from somewhere, and believing that the, if I can just avoid this conversation, if I can avoid this conflict, if I can avoid this fight or this argument, then that's the goal. That's a good thing. Like I used to believe that. I used to believe if we didn't fight, then our relationship was good. And if we didn't fight, then we couldn't break up. And then I would still be lovable. I would still be this man that I am trying to paint the picture that I am. But even though you might think you're being the biggest person or you're trying to de escalate it or you're telling yourself, it's not worth the fight, she's feeling like you don't even care. She's feeling like you're avoiding this. And that silence doesn't feel like maturity to her. It doesn't feel that silence, you might feel like, okay, I'm giving her space. It's not worth it. She interprets that as withdrawal, as abandonment, as being checked out. So even though it's the same situation, two very different experiences. And so the point isn't to just go headfirst into all conflicts, but to be able to navigate them and address them. Because what's the alternative? Maybe you go quiet or you get defensive, but nothing really gets resolved. Like you actually never get to a a, a resolution or a conclusion or any form of like ending that actually signals, okay, this was the thing. This is what we now have learned about the situation, so we don't repeat it, and then we can move on. Right? How often do you get to that point? And if you're having the same conversations or the same arguments, the same style of conversations multiple times, I dare say you haven't got to that point yet. Doesn't mean you can't, but you haven't got to it yet if it keeps coming up. Because if it keeps coming up, someone's not feeling heard, someone's not understood, someone isn't fucking listening, and someone's got to take ownership. Because the more of those you have, the more shit just gets swept under the rug. And eventually, that's where you end up in roommate status, just tiptoeing around each other, walking on eggshells, because you don't know what to talk about. Because last time we spoke about this, they got triggered. Last time we spoke about this, it ended in a fight. And then you're reduced to just kids and logistics and surface level conversations because anything else feels dangerous or uncertain. And you don't feel like the fight. You're too tired. It's not worth it. Yada, yada, yada. All the stories here. And then here we are. In those moments, depending if you've been running this cycle for a while, it's not uncommon for your wife to escalate things to try to get through to you, to get some form of reaction. Because up until now, she hasn't. And it's not that she wants to. It's like a kid that fights for your attention, right? They don't kids don't inherently like being naughty. They don't like destroying things. But if that's the only time they get dad's attention, well, it's better than no attention. Fucked up logic, I know. That's how kids work. And your wife is trying to get something out of you. And so don't see her as this person who's always trying to pick a fight or she's this horrible person. She's just trying to get through to you. She wants you to stay present. She wants to get to a point of resolve. She wants to feel heard. She wants to feel like she can say things to you and it actually means something and get through instead of it being externalized, instead of you getting defensive or you blaming somebody else or not taking ownership. Just being able to share that stuff. And as a pro tip, that's what ultimately creates the safety in a relationship, and the trust is nothing to do with whether she's whether people are faithful or not, or whether you physically abuse someone or not. Like, yeah, they're base levels of trust and safety, but how much can your partner share with you without you losing your shit? How consistent are you in staying grounded, in letting her speak, in being able to validate her experience? Not necessarily agree, but at least validate so that she feels seen, she feels heard, and that she can bring whatever she needs to you, and you'll be receptive to it. You'll work through it. You'll take ownership if that's required. You'll ultimately be on the same team. But most people, and I used to be in this category too. You take it if we take it personally, there's no room for that because we take everything as a hit. Like, I posted this piece of content today that shared about the understanding of one another. And this is why I think this work is so important, because when you truly understand yourself, then you can share more of yourself with your partner so that they can understand more about you, so they can love more of you, and then you can understand more about them. Problem is, most people think that if they share more of themselves, then their partner will find more of a reason to not love them and they'll be left alone in that dark spiral, which is why they don't want to be wrong. They don't want to be vulnerable. They don't want to share things in case someone sees them for who they truly are and then doesn't love them. But my point in this was, there was a time where my wife, she still does this, but we don't have this issue anymore. Of, she would say, "Oh, I want to get this new thing. I want to do this thing around the house. I want to get new blinds. I want to do this. I want to do that." And everything came, I want to go on holidays. I want to go on this date night. And yeah, everything came with like a multi-thousand-dollar price tag to it. And at the time when this was happening, we didn't have that kind of money. I wasn't making good enough money, and I would get defensive. I would dismiss her. I would kind of maybe either ignore her comments or I would get reactive to them and just not respond in a healthy way. And she was just like, "What? Like, why are you acting like that?" And I at the time didn't know, but eventually I realized, like, through doing this work myself, that, like, her request for those things was, I was interpreting that as a direct, a very real piece of proof that I am not making them a reminder even. I'm not making them I don't have the money that I wanna have. I'm not making the money that I wanna have. Therefore, I'm not providing the way that I wanna provide. I'm a piece of shit husband. I'm a piece of shit father. I am not worthy as a man. I am not good enough. I am like all this stuff. Like, fill out the rest of that story because of her saying she wanted some more blinds or new windows on the house. And when I eventually shared that, we kinda laughed about it. She's like, "That's not what I meant at all." And I'm like, "I know. Trust me, I know that's not what you meant at all." But that part of me that would run that story, it would run it and cause that defensiveness or that wills up type of a response without me consciously or even logically understanding why. And then I recognized what was going on there, and I can say, "Oh, that's why. That's what's happening there." And now I don't even have to flinch at those things anymore because I've done some work with that part. But I got to share that with her, And it not from a place of, well, this is why, so you should never ask for anything that we can't afford again, or you should take into consideration my feelings and how I interpret things before you say things and stuff like that. Like, no, not at all. But as an insight to, like, it's funny now. That's why I was reacting that way. And right, here we go. This is what validation is. If you've heard people say like, "Oh, you need to validate your partner," you need to validate their feelings and whatever. Validating does not mean agreeing. Does not mean apologizing. Like in this moment, she got to validate my feelings by saying, like she said, "Well, I didn't mean it that way, but I can see how you would interpret that to fit that story you had about yourself, and then have that reaction." I can see how that would make sense. I know why you did that now. She didn't try, like, that's all validation is. Just saying, cool. Well, if you believe that and interpret it this way, that makes sense. I would feel probably the same way too, or I would think the same thing too. Not about saying, oh, well, that's stupid. You should believe this about yourself, like disagreeing with me on anything. Like, no, it's just saying, like, well, if that's the story you tell yourself and that's the way that you interpreted that, well, being defensive and getting reactive to that sounds like a pretty logical or justified response to that. That makes sense. No, it's not an apology. It's not an agreement. It's not anything else other than like, well, yeah, that makes sense. And then we move on. And so now in the future, if anything similar like that happens, one of us, if we catch it, can call it out, be like, "Hey, is that thing, that part of you happening? That's taking this personally and taking this as as a hit to your self worth." Oh yeah, it probably is. That old guy again, right? And then we get to navigate that and move on. Now, Last one. Last one to decode, which is confusing for a lot of guys, and this has come up a lot with my clients recently, is the intimacy, the sex piece, right? How do like, for men, how do they initiate? How do I initiate that doesn't make her feel pressured, that doesn't feel awkward, that lets her know that I'm in the mood to try and to make this happen? And I think there's way too much pressure on this. We externalize this physical need as men to our wives way too much. And I think the love language, every single man that I've spoken to clutched onto love languages like a fucking lifeboat, saying, like, yeah, physical touch is my love language, almost as like well, if I'm going to meet your love language by giving you gifts or words of affirmation or gestures and whatever it is, you need to meet my love language by, yeah, that's fair, right? We're playing love language. We're going to play your game. No, men don't have a love language. The love language men have is fucking respect. They just want to be seen for shit. I want to do hard shit. I want to do it for the people that I care about, and I want to be seen doing it. I don't need acclamations. I don't need to be put on a pedestal. I just want to be seen for the things that I do for my family because I fucking love it, because that's the man that I am. And I know that the trust and the respect that come from my wife as a result of that will naturally create the polarity, connection, and everything that leads to the intimacy. But that's not the sex is not a validation of my worth or of the health of our relationship, because it's worth looking at how much weight do you put on your sex life? How much pressure do you put on yourself and your partner as using that for a marker of how good or not you are? And so many people will then use that like as said marker. And then as soon as like, oh, we're going through a dry spell, we haven't had it for a while, and then have some sex. And then, okay, cool. We're good again. We're good again. And then they'll ride this high for maybe a day or so. And then the same shit pattern will happen outside. Nothing will really change. And then they'll go through that dry spell again. But then if you're focused on, well, sex is the marker of the relationship, how do we improve the sex? Sex is downstream, my friend. Sex is a lagging metric of the health of your relationship. If you want to have more sex, create more trust, safety, and connection outside the bedroom. And I can guarantee it'll take care of itself. Because if you think that, like, okay, well, I'm going to let her know in the mood. I'm going to make these innuendos or these jokes, or I'm going to send her these memes or reels on social media. I'm going to, just touch her, smack her on the ass, show this desire. Then she will feel desired, right? She'll be in the mood. She'll know that it's on, and like we're good. But as you've probably experienced, she doesn't interpret it that way. She's going to feel like the only time he reaches for me is when he wants something. The only time that he shows his desire or affection is when he wants to get laid. Not because he truly feels that way about me, not because he truly cares about me, not because he wants to meet any of my needs, just because he's got some needs that he wants met. So he's going to make that obvious that that's my role for him tonight. Doesn't sound very romantic, does it? Doesn't sound like the experience you'd want a partner that is you're supposed to love each other to have, or a story that you'd like them to have about you. And the story is not yours to change, but the proof of that story is. So if every time in the past you've only done something nice to to get her in the mood or to have sex. The only time you buy her flowers, that you clean up the kitchen, that you give her a back rub or a foot rub or run her a bath or look after the kids or help clean up or to do any of that stuff is to quote unquote take some load off her plate because you want to help her stress less so that she can relax so that she's going to be more receptive to you that night. Yeah, that's manipulation, my friend. And if you get triggered by that, then welcome. Because I used to get triggered by being called out by that as well. The fact that you get triggered by that is because part of you knows that it's true. Because part of you knows that that's your plan when she shuts you down. And especially if she shuts you down when you're trying to do the nice thing and you get frustrated, because she's seen straight through your act. She's seen where this is going. She's one step, two, three steps ahead of you and has said, nah, not tonight, champ. And that annoys the shit out of you because you thought you were being sneaky. You thought that you could run this covert contract and get what you wanted. And she saw straight through that like a glass window, my friend, and said, not fucking tonight. And so the play then isn't to take a childish approach and just ignore her and just do nothing for her and wait for her to come to you, so to speak. Horrible fucking play. The play to rebuild this, if you want to call it a play, to rebuild that trust and connection is to be able to do those things without expectation. So you can give her a foot rub, you can give it run her a bath, you can help out with the kids, clean the house, whatever it is that you would normally do, and do it because you want to help out. Do it because you're a team. Do it because it needed doing. Do it because she looked like she had a big day. Whatever it is, and then cool. Was that helpful? Did that feel nice? Amazing. Good night. No expectation of return, no lingering, you know, like, hmm, none of that. That will start to rebuild this connection. That will start to rebuild your control in your own expression of things. You'll also start to check yourself of, am I doing this for myself? So am I doing this covertly because I want something done in return? Or am I doing this because I just want to help out because it feels all right? And our female partners are incredibly intuitive, so they will sniff through our bullshit faster than anybody else. So the invitation is to be able to do these things without expectation of return. Do them because you want to. And that's what nice guys will tell you they're doing. But if you get frustrated when you get shut down, if you get stunned, like when she says no, or when she doesn't respond in a way that you think, and you're like, I don't know, what do I do now? Or you're offended, or you take it personally, or you have any other reaction other than like, yeah, that's fine, and like genuinely fucking mean it. Like I don't mean like just say yeah, that's fine, but inside you're burning. Like genuinely, 100% be able to say like, cool, No worries, babe. Doesn't phase me. Like, unless you can genuinely do that and feel that, there was an expectation there. And that's the thing to work on. Because desire without that connection, like trying to force that desire without the connection, is she's going to feel like she's being used. First of all, she needs to feel seen before she can feel wanted. And by seen, like appreciated for what she does, for the house, for the kids, for you, for everything, just in acknowledgement of that. So instead of trying to be the man who only, sorry, instead of being the man who only touches her at night and ignores her during the day, thinking that, well, that's being loving, well, that's being transactional, man. Right? That's like, imagine she gives you no attention all week, and then, well, maybe she's going on a girls' trip or she's going to the shops on the weekend and she wants your credit card. So then she's all lovey dovey, maybe flirting with you. Maybe she gives you a little something so that she can get that card and off her way. If you started to notice that pattern, you'd probably feel pretty upset too, right? Eventually, you'd feel pretty used as well. And sure, maybe part of you just loves the attention, like, fuck, okay, I'll take what I can get at this point. But is that really the kind of relationship you want to have? Coming back to the standards where we started this one, like, is that the type of relationship where you want to have, where you both of you are using sex as a leverage point to get what you want or to take it off the table when you feel like someone is being manipulative or deceitful? I don't know about you, but not me. 'Cause these are some of the most common pitfalls that well-intended men make. I fucked these up for years. So hopefully that you can learn from these faster before you get to the point of having an ultimatum, having your marriage threatened, or just bashing your head against a wall saying like, what the fuck am I doing wrong? Hopefully now this shines a light on some of those scenarios so that you can do something about it, ideally from the root cause. So you address the part of you that doesn't feel worthy on his own, that feels like he has to say yes to everybody else, that has to people please, that has to avoid conflict, do all that. So that when you show up in this new light, you show up authentically, that you don't have to memorize some script. You don't have to think about anything really. You can just be present and you just feel what has to be said and the way it has to be said. Like that's one of the most powerful things. The power in this process is ultimately just becoming authentically you and trusting that that version of you knows what to say, knows how to say it, knows the tone to use, the body language to use, like when's the right time to stay present, to lean in for a hug, to offer assistance or a solution or just whatever is needed in that moment because you're present and you are who you are. To live a life as that self without these parts running, in my opinion, is the goal. To live as the best, as the version, the only version of you that isn't governed by these parts. And there's a fucking immense amount of freedom that comes with that. Like the level of peace and freedom that I feel in the way that I get to show up for my wife, for my son, and the lessons that I get to give them, like this, so the experience of me that I get to give my wife, but also the lessons I get to give my son and my future daughter, not having to then compete for other people's love, knowing that they are enough as they are, getting to healthily say no and do all these things. I am so fucking excited to see what they create in life, not having to live with these parts running their life. And that is one of the greatest gifts that I have gained and am able to give as part of doing this work. And I hope that you get to experience that as well, to be able to gift that to your kids and to be able to live in that level of authenticity and freedom because it's fucking powerful. So now you know some of the pitfalls. Do something about it. Don't be sorry. Be better. Bye.